Hey guys, it's Drake here, and I'm bringing you the next episode of the Chemical Formulary series. For the uninitiated, I found this old book in the trash.
I love
and
this
inside are a
guy.
bunch of recipes that are about 85% practical chemistry, 10% witchcraft, and the rest being some of the worst ideas our species has ever thought of. I've picked out even more ridiculous recipes to test. And in fact, preparing for these experiments got me a visit by the FBI, so you know this one's gonna be good.
Wait, what? I mean, I'm not surprised that he's being watched by the FBI, considering all the things that he's done.
Now I gotta say it, the experiments I'm about to show you are extremely dangerous, and you'd probably die if you attempted them, so please don't. And since I was nearly banned for this video series before, I'm obligated to mention that I'm literally a chemist. I may be crazy, but I know how to do this stuff safely. So yeah, please don't try this at home. Anyway, let's continue our dive into the absurd world of 1933 chemical recipes. This is one of the most ridiculous ideas I've ever
Friction lighting cigarette tip? What?
seen. It's a recipe for a self-igniting cigarette.
What?
I guess the motivation here was, why carry a pack of smokes and a box of matches when you can just combine them into one? Now if the idea wasn't crazy enough, check out that ingredient list. Potassium dichromate? I mean, yeah, smoking will give you...
Wait, and you're fucking Okay, we all know that smoking is bad for you, but holy shit, what the fuck?
Cancer too, but this is just speed running it. And the burning sulfur? That's awful. Oh, this one's gonna be fun. There's actually two recipes here, where the first one isn't quite so horrible. Now they don't say which form of carbon to use, so I use lamp black for this because I like the sparks that it makes. As for the second recipe, I mixed the glues with water and then broke out the potassium dichromate. Now don't be fooled, this stuff may look irresistibly delicious, but I assure you,
I'm not gonna lie, that really does look good.
it'll mess you up in nearly every way imaginable. In fact,
really
it
does
typically
look like
gets a
something
level
I wanna
4 health
eat.
risk in most safety data sheets, which is the highest it goes. To make matters worse, the completed mix looks just like cheese sauce. Like seriously, I just want to put it on crackers and eat it. I can't do that though, because it's like deadly or whatever. Anyway, here's what these glorified matches look like after a few days of drying. Alright, let's start with the first mix. What the heck? This mix was hard to ignite, but once it lit, it was surprisingly energetic and shot burning embers everywhere. I'm
sorry, and you're supposed to smoke this shit? What the fuck?
used too much of the mix on the end of the stick in hindsight, but at least it made an awesome effect. Now to try the real cancer sticks.
Oh my
that felt just like a normal match. Slow-mo shows that it still managed to shoot off a few embers, but nothing like the first formula. This one was easier to ignite too, but of course, it comes at the cost of being incredibly toxic. Here's a recipe for a laptop stain that's based on some of my favorite chemicals. Now I thought it'd be fitting to have a 1930 style lab setup for these experiments. And spoiler alert, I actually used it on this very desk. I started with this E7Q standing desk that was sent to me by my sponsor FlexiSpot. This desk is incredibly stable and built with very tight tolerances, which means I don't have to worry about it wobbling and spilling horrible chemicals everywhere when I'm working at it. It's funny, because the original coating on here is actually highly chemically resistant already, and that's due to the magic of modern polymer chemistry. I actually had to sand this off in order to get my chemical recipe to stick to the desk. The first part of the formula calls for two beautiful compounds, copper sulfate, which forms these bright blue crystals, and potassium permanganate, which makes a deep magenta solution when dissolved in water. Potassium permanganate is actually made right here in the state of Illinois. Well, it was until the factory exploded a couple months ago.
What?
Anyway, this first solution actually stained the wood a fairly dark color on its own, even before applying the second solution. The second solution looks pretty boring, but when painted on the desk, it polymerizes into a deep black color due to the formation of polyanilins. This coating actually turned out to be slightly conductive, so I figured I'd use it to make the table into an ESD-proof workstation by grounding it. It turns out, trying to drill through this carbon steel frame was nearly impossible, but then again, the desk is rated to hold over 400 pounds after all. I ended up just filing a spot where I could attach a ground wire via some conductive tape. The finished table is quite the ideal workstation for me. It is in fact resistant to various forms of chemical attack, and it is quite resistant to fire as well.
Oh wait, so is that why that's why lab tables are the way they are? I didn't know that. I just thought I just thought that those are just the type of tables that they had in the classroom. I didn't know there were tables meant for a specific purpose, that you can't just have any table in a fucking lab.
Itself lost some of its conductivity after applying the linseed oil.
Whoa, what the
But the
fuck?
frame itself is still grounded, which helps prevent static buildup in its own right. Now,
That
I've
looks
always
sick.
liked standing desks since they're better on my back, and they're easy to build stuff on. My new lab actually came with some standing desks when I bought it, but they were built by a guy that was like a foot taller than me, so they're pretty awkward for me to use. These flexi spot desks have motorized legs that allow me to adjust their height on the fly, which means I can find a comfortable
I have
height no
motorized
matter what
desks
I'm working
too.
on. The legs are built with 100 micron tolerances, so there's no wobble to deal with when I'm doing my work. Considering the terrifying chemicals I'm working with in this video, that stability is quite nice. But even when I'm not using deadly science stuff, my E7 desk makes a perfect setup for my daily needs. Now is the best time to get Flexi Spot standing desks, since you can get an extra $60 off when you spend $500 with the code
Help!
STYRO60.
There's an ad!
Coal for a while, and
Whoa!
cyanide is opposed to the
He
calcium.
makes the ad in.
Wrong in what to do with these chemicals. They need to be mixed before dunking the coal in it. I'm using potassium ferrocyanide as opposed to the calcium salt here, but that change shouldn't matter. Alright, time to dunk in the coal.
Coal? That's how coal looks like? What the?
Did it just dye brown? Well,
That looks
that's
like
silly.
soda.
I guess there's a little blue in there. Now, the patent says that the effect is better when dry, so I'm gonna let some pieces air out. Holy heck, look at that! That's beautiful!
Whoa.
Check out those incredible iridescent colors! Wow, the pieces are all so different too. Some are orange,
Holy
some
heck.
blue, and most every color in between. That's amazing! For such a simple procedure, this is one of the most impressive recipes I've tried yet, and the chemistry here is fascinating as well. It's a synthesis of a Prussian blue pigment that uses the coal surface as a reducing agent. The reason you get so many more colors than blue is mostly just due to thin film interference. If I treat the coal for a while, the coating ends up thick enough to look more like the classic dye. This is such a perfect example of how chemistry is literally magic. The science checks out, of course, but the fact that a couple simple chemicals transform some lumps of coal into something like this is astonishing. It's reactions like this that remind us that chemistry arose out of alchemy. What a cool recipe.
He is an alchemist.
Here's a great recipe for removing annoying anthills in the yard.
Oh, kill
Simply
ants.
toss enough cyanide in them to kill 100 people.
What?
Now, if you think this seems a bit excessive, it isn't even the worst ant removal recipe in the series, because at least it goes away after some time.
What?
Going through this book, there are ant poison recipes using arsenic, lead, even thallium, which is just a straight up horrible poison that
What
doesn't
the
just
fuck?
go away. Here's a recipe for artificial fog. Now, when I think of artificial fog, I think of a club filled with fun music and fog machines. But judging by the chemicals used here, this looks closer to a war crime. I mean, seriously, carbon tetrachloride?
What the fuck?
That stuff is straight up cancer juice. And the zinc chloride product? Ugh, this is a horrible recipe. I'm looking forward to testing this one. If you ignore the toxicity, this formula is quite interesting.
I mean, I don't like
Half
bugs,
of it is
but I don't
carbon
want to poison
tetrachloride,
myself.
which before we figured out it destroys the ozone layer in your liver, we used it widely as a fire extinguisher.
What?
And here, this formula actually burns it as the oxidizer, liberating carbon and zinc chloride in a pyrochemical single replacement reaction akin to a thermite. Something tells me that a recipe that's half fire extinguisher will be hard to ignite, so I'll be using these ancient sparklers to ignite it.
Ancient sparklers?
Ugh, here we go. Alright, any minute now. This stuff seems slow to start, but I think it's picking up pace now. Oh wow, it's really billowing out fog now. That's some of the thickest smoke I've ever seen made by
Holy
a pyro
shit.
device. That's actually extremely impressive. You know, this mix is both clever and stupid at the same time. The product of this reaction is zinc chloride smoke, which has a potent affinity for water.
Oh my
This
god.
means those particles bind to water in the air, which increases the particle
Jesus
size and thus
Christ!
makes the smoke even thicker. Now that smoke is also quite acidic, and it's full of zinc, so it's not great to inhale.
What the
However,
fuck?
a very similar mix called HC is still used today by military and police as a smokescreen. In fact, if you go to the war gases section of this book, they'll tell you that I'm overreacting and that mixes like this are
What?
harmless. Now I can't say I agree, but I guess it's nothing compared to these other crimes against humanity. Have you ever needed liters of sweat, but didn't want to go through the effort of making
I'm sorry, artificial perspiration?
it naturally? Well, lucky for you, here's a nice recipe for artificial perspiration. I love how there's recipes for both new and old
What the
sweat
fuck?
here. How lovely. Let's mix some of this stuff up. I can't help but wonder what the
Why would
original
you need
application
that?
of this would
And
be.
what is the
But without
purpose?
any context given by the book, I guess it leaves it up to our imagination. I will say that the use of lactic acid and ammonium carbonate means that this would probably make a decent mosquito bait in traps. Well, here's 2 liters of artificial sweat. Now, does it smell like sweat? I can't really say that one does. Let's
is the
try
purpose?
let's try the old one. Oh yeah, that one actually does smell a bit like sweat. Huh. How does it taste like sweat? Oh yeah, it actually does. It tastes a little bit like sweat. Interesting.
Ew!
I don't know what it is with this book and inhaling chloroform and ether, but here's another brilliant concoction to inhale while you're sick.
Antiseptic
Now seriously,
inhalation?
what's this even supposed to do? Kill germs or put you in a coma? Now those other ingredients are no cakewalk
What the
either.
fuck?
Phenol and creosote? Jeez. Smoke pot? Oh, it's a smoke pot. I'm guessing it makes a big cloud of smoke for use in theatrical
Oh,
effects.
I thought it was telling me
So there are
smoke
2
bomb.
recipes here, so you can pick your poison. Do you want to inhale burning arsenic or sulfur? If you're concerned about the amount of arsenic in that second formula, the good news is that red arsenic is only 70% arsenic by weight, so it's not quite a full pound of arsenic there. It is, however, a
Oh,
pound
well,
of
thanks
ass.
for telling me.
Now, even a pound of ass has enough arsenic to kill like 500 people, so I decided to go with the burning
pound of
brimstone
ass!
version. Besides, sulfur is an underappreciated element anyway. Yeah, it's smelly, but it can take on beautiful forms, and it has several critical roles in biology. Plus, when it comes to fireworks, it's the great balancer because it's happy being either the fuel or the oxidizer. There is another issue with this mix though, and that's that it doesn't even work. I can't get it to light on fire, which is a rarity for me.
Damn.
If
he's
you've
good
ever
at
had the
lighting
urge to
fire.
plate random stuff in metal, then this is the recipe for you.
Metallizing
Apparently with just 2
non-metallic
ingredients,
particles?
plastic and even bone can be plated in pure silver.
I'm sorry, excuse me? Why would you need to plate a bone in silver? What the fuck?
Now, I don't know about you, but bone silvering juice just sounds magical. So I'm gonna test this one out. I
On
found
my
this
own
deer skull
bone.
while hiking
Oh.
with my cats recently that'll be perfect for this experiment.
What the?
Thankfully, the bugs had already picked out all the gross stuff, so it just needed a quick rinse with water
that a
followed
real
by a light
skull?
wash with
What the
naphtha.
fuck?
I didn't have enough canola to make gallons of 4% solution, so I just made what I could and rinsed the skull with it several times to make sure it soaked some of that up. Now the book doesn't say what concentration of silver nitrate to use, so I went with 4% like the canola and poured it onto the skull. The resultant plating was fairly dark, but a quick polish with a rag really shined it up. I
My
think the
wife
result
looks
is quite impressive.
Hurry, don't
The
look!
smooth
it's
parts of
hard
the
because
bone
she's being
ended up with the
silvered.
shiniest plating, whereas the more porous areas kept a darker tone. Now it's hard to capture on camera, but some areas are covered in little crystals of pure silver.
Whoa.
A beautiful skull and a beautiful desk to boot. How lovely.
I
You might
still
think
don't.
that the ink section in here would be pretty
Glass
boring,
etching ink?
but it turns out there are plenty of exciting recipes in here. Now this one claims that it can etch glass, which is pretty crazy considering how resistant glass is to most chemicals. Now notice how they tell you to not get it on skin. If this book tells you that, they mean it. Hydrofluoric acid is a funny chemical. It's only a weak acid, yet it can dissolve glass, which is something that most strong acids can't do. The recipe calls for lead in wooden utensils, but I subbed them out for modern plastic since they're even more resistant to attack from HF. So what would happen if I spilled this on my skin? Well, I probably
what do
wouldn't
you
feel
think?
anything
What
at
do you think is
first,
gonna happen?
but soon it would reveal itself as the ultimate bone-hurting juice.
Yeet!
Hydrofluoric acid quickly penetrates skin to attack bones and liquefy flesh, and exposing just a few % of your skin to it can be fatal. This is what makes this ink one of the most dangerous recipes in the whole series.
What is the purpose
On the
of
flip
this?
side, the ink did a great job at etching the glass, although it did bubble up a bit and cause etching in unintended places. This etched glass gives really cool effects with laser beams, as it preferentially illuminates the etched part. This is certainly a cool recipe, but I'll say, it is quite scary to work
Is
with.
this lost?
This one is so bad. Eat 3 grams of a mercury salt for stomach gas? And this would straight up poison
Stomach
you.
gas relief?
Whatever mercury you'd absorb would stay with you for life. And you know what? Your
What
poop
the fuck? What the fuck?
after this would be so toxic, you'd need a hazmat team to clean it up. I have no idea how people
Man,
survived it
people-
all back then. Judging by these
People-
gray torch recipes, The 1930s really knew how to throw a parade.
Blue parade
Look at that
torches.
first formula. It contains Paris green, which is an arsenic salt, and calomel, which is a mercury salt. As you can imagine, inhaling the fumes from that would be horrible, but maybe the beautiful blue flames would be worth it. Now that second formula there is only mildly toxic, so I think that's the one I'm going to test.
He's
I'm
like
going
a
to assume
toxic
that copper
wizard.
ammonium sulfate is an old name for the complex
Everclear.
tetramine copper 2 sulfate monohydrate. Now I don't have any of this on hand, so I had to make some by reacting a copper sulfate solution with ammonia. The resultant product is an incredible deep blue color.
Whoa.
Once this dried, I used some to make a batch of this blue parade torch mix and filled some tubes with it. What could possibly go wrong?
Whoa.
It sounds pretty cool, but the color's really
I
washed
feel
out.
like there's better ways to achieve
I can't say I'm
this
very
color
impressed with this one.
other than
I still
this
had some
toxic
copper
way.
complex left over, so I figured I'd try to improve the mix using an ammonium oxidizer and a hexamin fuel. Here we go.
Whoa. Whoa.
Okay, now we're talking.
That is so
Wow, that sounds
cool.
like a rocket. And geez, that's an eye-searing amount of blue light. Yeah, my camera hates that. I should note that making a good blue in fireworks is quite the challenge. Well, at least when you can't use arsenic and mercury. But I think this formula is an exception. It just needed some adjustments to keep the flame temperature down.
Wow, that's pretty.
This one looks really useful.
To
It's a
plug
simple method
holes
of
in
plugging holes
metal?
in metal. It uses just 2 ingredients. What could possibly go wrong?
What could
I've
possibly
accidentally
go
poked a
wrong?
hole in one of my favorite microwaves here. And since I don't want the microwaves to escape or anything, this is a perfect opportunity to test this recipe. I have to say, these ingredients are quite unusual, but at least they're easy to mix up. I sanded off some of the coating there to expose the bare metal. Let's go ahead and pour some of that mix on there. Alright, time to heat it up. Is it supposed to catch on fire like that? Wow, that mix burns quite hot. Let's take a look at what's left. It definitely plugged the hole there. This stuff is hard as a rock. Impressive. So what happens if you spill water on it? Oh, look at that. It reacts with
Ew,
water.
what?
I guess any holes you plug with this won't be watertight. It would also kill you in seconds if you did this indoors. Yeah, that's right. Those little bubbles are what make this the deadliest recipe I found in the whole book series. The recipe makes aluminum sulfide, which generates the extremely deadly hydrogen sulfide gas on contact with water.
Okay.
If this gas builds up to a measly 1/10 of 1% in air,
What
and you take a
happens?
single breath, you'll get knocked out almost instantly, and your unconscious body will quickly inhale a fatal dose. I cannot
Fatal?
overstate how dangerous this recipe is. The ingredients are fairly benign, so an unsuspecting user would likely be oblivious to the demon they're creating by mixing this. Ointments aren't typically something I consider exciting, but here's an excellent exception.
Nitrate
It's a
ointment.
mercury-based ointment that also uses nitric acid as a bonus. Now, what you'd use this horrible potion for, I have no idea. But whatever it is, it must be terrifying to justify using these ingredients. Ever want to trick your geologist friends into thinking you have something special? If so, look
Artificial
no further than
fluorescent
this simple
minerals?
recipe. Simply mix uranium salts with a
What the
powerful
heck?
oxidizer and then cook the daylights out of it. What a brilliant idea. It's always a good day when I get to break out the uranium salts. It's hard to deny their beauty, and this recipe makes use of their strong fluorescence. Of course, using uranium to make fake rocks is a bit silly, because unsurprisingly, this gives a product
Oh,
that's
no,
radioactive and very toxic.
Uranium fever.
The uranium is
going
diluted with
all
sodium
around.
nitrate here. And although this compound isn't very
fever
toxic,
running
it
through
brings
the
up its
town
own set of issues.
with the Geiger
One of which is
counter
that
in
it's a
my
powerful
hand.
oxidizer. Anyway, let's cook this uranium mix. This could be a bit faster, couldn't it? Oh yeah, there's some brown gas being released. I think that's some of the urinal nitrate breaking down there. You don't want to breathe that. Alright, I think that's good enough. Here's the completed fake mineral. It is
What?
quite sparkly, and it turned redder than I expected.
fuck is it?
Probably due to trapped nitrogen dioxide gas.
That looks
But is
kind
it
of
actually
gross.
fluorescent? I'll take that as
I
a
can't
yes.
explain why.
Is this recipe worth it? No, not even in the slightest. It turns out, both of these ingredients here are deliquescent, which means
that
they have
orange
such an
sorbet?
affinity
Don't
for
eat
water
it.
that they'll turn themselves into a puddle on a humid day. That means you'll get radioactive salt everywhere, and simply touching it with your bare hand will leave uranium on your skin. Besides, there are plenty of real fluorescent minerals out there that are cheap. And if you're going to go with something artificial, you might as well pick something that nature can't offer. For example, I have this neat gag crystal here that's not only fluorescent, but it's also phosphorescent. And even crazier, it's ferromagnetic too. Most importantly, it won't give you uranium poisoning by touching it. What a silly formula. Chemicals that glow in the dark? Well, that sounds like fun. I mean, nowadays we're spoiled with all sorts of phosphorescent pigments. So I'm curious to see how an old recipe like this holds up. For this recipe, I have to make some modifications to use what I have on hand. I don't have zinc sulfide, but I do have zinc and sulfur, which when burned produces zinc sulfide along with a bunch of heat. My hope is that this short combustion reaction will be enough to produce at least some amount of glow powder. Well, here goes nothing.
Whoa!
Oh wow, that's a lot of fire. I love the green flames there from the zinc metal burning. Those fumes are delicious. Yeah, that crucible didn't like that one bit. That must be incredibly hot. Here's what the finished product looks like. When I hit it with a UV flashlight, it actually gives a decent afterglow. Sure, it's nothing compared to modern pigments, but this stuff works surprisingly well considering its simplicity. I've picked out some of the better chunks to hit with a UV laser. Check out that afterglow. I can't believe how well this works given the modifications I made. There are plenty of toilet fluids in this book series. The toilet milk in my last video turned out to be really popular, so I feel like this toilet vinegar is worth trying as well. This recipe calls for glacial acetic acid, which is basically ultra vinegar since it's 20 times more concentrated than normal vinegar. The silly thing is that the recipe dilutes it to regular vinegar strength with water, so it really doesn't need the glacial stuff here. Well, I still don't know what this stuff actually does, so I guess I'll just feed it to my favorite toilet.
What the?
Oh, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity for a
Oh my god, what is
baking
that
soda
toilet
volcano.
seat? Holy shit. Oh my god,
Wow,
this looks like something my aunt would have in her bathroom.
a beautiful ad-friendly chemical reaction.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cute though. What
So
the
many
fuck?
bubbles.
Oh no.
Now before I end this video, I feel like I should give the story of my FBI visit because it's already one of my top search suggestions even though I've barely talked about it. But anyway, I was playing with some stray cats that I found in my backyard when this SUV pulls in the driveway. Now it wasn't black, it was like green or something. But anyway, a couple guys come out and so I walk up there to greet them and that's when they pull out their badges and tell me that they're with the FBI. So I'm thinking, oh boy, right? It's like is it all the Soviet military surplus I like to buy? Or is it the sketchy Chinese laser parts? Have my memes been too spicy that I've been posting online? And I guess being Arabic probably doesn't help my case either. But they told me, yeah, it was some things I bought online that they were concerned about. And they had this whole list, and they start reading off of these chemical names. And this actually surprised me because, like, these are chemicals that I've bought for forever. Like, I even told them I was surprised it took them this long to visit me over chemicals, right? But apparently the issue was the quantity I ordered, because I did order a pretty substantial amount of chemicals that can be used for exploding purposes, and they just want to make sure that I didn't have anything horrible planned, right? But the funny thing was, is my squirrel friend heard all this commotion, and she's up in the tree, so she comes out of the tree and walks up to us in the driveway.
Wait, it's an actual squirrel. I thought.
And then she's just looking at us, and then, oh man, I wish I had my security cameras up for this because it's so absurd. Because they're wondering, like, what's this squirrel here looking at us for? So here I have to explain this as some crazy guy that lives in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere that I have this squirrel friend that loves people and likes to climb on people. So I'm trying to prevent her from jumping up on us.
That is cute.
But it's just like. It was so ridiculous, but I mean they were cool about it. I even offered to show them around, but they declined. But it was quite the experience. Like it was pretty funny. One more thing, if you like my chemistry content,
He sounds so suspicious.
check out my shorts channel. It's not all vertical trash. I have a couple medium-length chemistry vids there too. I've also started another side channel that only has one video so far,
He
but I plan on
sounded
uploading quite a variety of
suspicious.
stuff there. Anyway, thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching.
Well, that was cute. He sounded very suspicious towards the end. He never ceases to amaze me with all the crazy chemical shit that he does. Very scary. I'm just not meant to be a science girl.